Close your eyes. It's 2002. Roger Ver is 23 years old and standing in front of a federal judge in San Jose, California. He has just pleaded guilty to selling explosive materials, Pest Control Report 2000, on eBay without a license. He is sentenced to 10 months in federal prison. Most people after that would keep their head down. Get a job. Stay quiet. Roger Ver renounced his U.S. citizenship, moved to Japan, discovered Bitcoin in 2011, bought thousands of coins when they were worth pennies, and became one of the loudest voices in crypto, beloved by millions, despised by just as many. They called him Bitcoin Jesus. And then when he turned against Bitcoin in favor of Bitcoin Cash, they called him something else entirely. Born on January 27, 1979 in San Jose, California, Ver's journey began in the heart of tech revolution. Attending De Anza College in Cupertino, he quickly decided that academia was too slow for a mind racing with entrepreneurial ambition. He left to chase opportunities on his own terms. In those early days, he built MemoryDealers.com, a company specializing in computer memory chips and hardware components. It was a business that thrived in the dot-com boom, yet Ver was driven by more than profit. His ethos was deeply libertarian. A belief system crystallized not just by books and lectures, but by a visceral distrust of centralized power. Government, to him, was an entity that should interfere as little as possible in the lives of individuals. But life took a turn. In 2002, Ver was convicted for selling explosive devices on eBay, a legal misstep that led to 10 months in federal prison. Those months behind bars were transformative. To many, prison would have been a setback. For Ver, it was a crucible that hardened his anti-government stance into an unyielding core belief. Emerging from confinement, he moved to Japan, seeking distance from the reach of U.S. authorities. Fast forward to 2011. In Tokyo, amid bustling streets and neon lights, Ver discovered a fledgling digital currency that promised liberation from government-controlled money systems. Bitcoin. It was trading at a mere $1 when he first encountered it. For Ver, Bitcoin was more than a currency. It was an ideological weapon, a tool to dismantle the financial status quo and empower individuals like never before. He invested heavily, not just financially, but with the zeal of a true believer. He spread the word with evangelical fervor, earning the moniker Bitcoin Jesus. Not for any divine aspirations, but for his relentless mission to convert the masses. Through podcasts, interviews, and innumerable conversations, he declared Bitcoin as the most significant innovation since the internet. His commitment went beyond words. Ver put his money where his mouth was, funding projects and companies that advanced the Bitcoin ecosystem. To many, he became a symbol of the cryptocurrency revolution. But as Bitcoin grew, so did the tensions within its community. The ideological harmony that once unified Bitcoin enthusiasts began to fracture. Disagreements on scalability and purpose sparked a schism. Ver, steadfast in his belief of decentralized financial freedom, found himself at odds with the emerging direction Bitcoin was taking. In 2017, he pivoted his support to Bitcoin Cash, believing it stayed truer to the original vision of a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. This decision was polarizing, casting Ver both as a pioneer and a pariah in different eyes. Despite the controversies, his conviction remained unshaken. Yet the road was fraught with challenges and reputational costs. By 2024, Ver faced his most daunting trial yet. Arrested in Spain, he was under the grim shadow of a federal indictment in the United States for tax fraud, a striking fall from grace for a man once revered as a visionary. In the span of a decade, Bitcoin Jesus had gone from being a champion of financial liberation to a cautionary tale of ambition and ideology entangled with legal peril. His story is not just one of innovation and downfall, but of the enduring conflict between individual liberty and the structures that seek to govern it. As we delve into the intricate narrative of Roger Ver's life, From his early days in Silicon Valley to the tumult of his later years, we seek to understand the man behind the myth, a journey that is as much about the evolution of cryptocurrency as it is about the complexities of belief and the price of conviction. This is Satoshi's Lullaby. This is Satoshi's Lullaby. If you're enjoying this story, subscribe to Satoshi's Lullaby. New episodes every day. Now, let's continue. In a world not quite ready for it, a digital currency emerged, promising freedom from the shackles of conventional financial systems. But long before the birth of Bitcoin, there was a boy named Roger Ver, born on January 27, 1979, in the heart of Silicon Valley, San Jose, California. Silicon Valley was a place brimming with innovation and ambition. It was here that the seeds of Ver's future were sown. Raised in a family who prized education and self-sufficiency, Roger was an inquisitive child, precociously questioning the world around him. In the 1980s, the valley was rapidly transforming into the epicenter of technological advancement. Giants like Apple and Intel sculpted the landscape of innovation. Amidst this, Roger Ver was absorbing the ethos of entrepreneurship that would define his life. As he grew, so did his convictions. A student of De Anza College in Cupertino, Ver's academic pursuits quickly succumbed to the pull of business. He left college to embark on a path uniquely his own, founding his company, MemoryDealers.com, which specialized in computer memory chips and hardware components. In the late 1990s, MemoryDealers.com was more than just a business venture. It was Roger Ver's proving ground. By 2001, his company was an established player, boasting significant sales in a burgeoning market. Ver was relentless, often working late into the night to ensure its success. But Roger Ver's ambitions extended beyond mere commerce. His heart was drawn toward the principles of libertarianism. The teachings of Ayn Rand resonated deeply with him, emphasizing freedom, individualism, and minimal government intervention. Libertarianism, though not new, found fresh vigor among those disenchanted with traditional political systems. Roger Ver became a staunch advocate, attending meetings and rallies, fervently discussing free market capitalism. It was the early 2000s, a time when digital forums buzzed with ideas that would shape the future. However, 2002 brought an unforeseen challenge. Ver's entrepreneurial spirit led him to sell what he deemed harmless products on eBay. These, however, were classified as illegal explosive devices by federal authorities. The United States justice system did not share Ver's interpretation of personal freedom. He was arrested, tried, and eventually convicted. Sentenced to 10 months in federal prison, Ver found himself behind bars, his burgeoning career abruptly halted. Prison was a crucible. Within its confines, Ver contemplated the boundaries of freedom and the reach of government power. Emerging from prison, he was more resolute than ever in his beliefs, his distrust of authority now deeply ingrained. Upon his release, Roger Ver faced a changed world. The digital age was accelerating, and opportunities abounded. But the shadows of his conviction loomed large over his future endeavors. Seeking a fresh start, he relocated to Japan, a country that would offer him the anonymity and freedom to rebuild. Japan, with its juxtaposition of ancient culture and cutting-edge technology, became the backdrop for Ver's next chapter. It was here in 2011 that he encountered Bitcoin. Trading at just $1, this nascent cryptocurrency promised a new kind of freedom. To Ver, Bitcoin was more than a currency. It was a movement, a revolution against the financial systems he had long critiqued. His passion for Bitcoin was immediate and profound. He saw it as a tool to undermine government control and champion financial sovereignty. Roger Ver invested heavily, both financially and emotionally, in Bitcoin. Dubbed Bitcoin Jesus by the community, he evangelized its potential with fervor. Traveling across the globe, he preached the gospel of digital currency, converting skeptics and inspiring believers. As his influence grew, so did his ventures. Ver funded startups, supported development teams, and was never far from the epicenter of Bitcoin innovation. But as the adage goes, with great power comes great responsibility, and controversies were never far behind. In time, cracks began to appear within the cryptocurrency community. Ideological divides over Bitcoin's direction became apparent. Roger Ver found himself at odds with the emerging status quo, his vision clashing with others. The schism was not just about technology, it was a test of philosophies and future visions. Ver, ever the libertarian, wanted a currency accessible to all, not just an investment tool. His disappointment in the path Bitcoin was taking led him to champion Bitcoin Cash, an alternative he believed aligned closer with Satoshi Nakamoto's original vision. The shift was controversial, sparking intense debates and dividing communities. Yet through it all, Ver's resolve remained unbroken. The stakes were high, but he was accustomed to navigating turbulent waters. And so, as the world watched, Roger Ver, the boy from Silicon Valley who became Bitcoin Jesus, stood at a crossroads of ideology and innovation. The events set in motion would soon alter not just his destiny, but the very course of cryptocurrency's future. In the heart of chaos, clarity was his companion. Ver's story, interwoven with the rise and schism of Bitcoin, was far from over. For even as one chapter closed, another was poised to open, promising deeper challenges and unexpected revelations. Thus, the stage was set for what would come next, as Roger Ver's journey continued into uncharted territories. With the dawn of a new chapter on the horizon, Ver would soon face the consequences of his convictions and the choices that shaped his legacy. With the dawn of a new chapter on the horizon, Ver would soon face the consequences of his convictions and the choices that shaped his legacy. Born on January 27, 1979, in San Jose, California, Roger Ver had always demonstrated a proclivity for challenging the status quo. His upbringing in Silicon Valley, infused with the spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship, set the stage for what was to come. At the age of 19, Ver enrolled at De Anza College in Cupertino, but his academic pursuits were short-lived. The allure of business, coupled with his libertarian beliefs, pulled him away from formal education. He founded MemoryDealers.com, a company specializing in computer memory chips and hardware components. His venture thrived, giving Ver the financial freedom to explore his interests further. Ver's libertarian ideology was deeply entrenched in his consciousness, influenced by thinkers like Ayn Rand and Ludwig von Mises. He believed fervently in minimal government intervention and the sovereignty of the individual. This philosophy was not just a theoretical stance for Ver. It became the framework through which he interacted with the world. In 2002, his convictions led him down a path that resulted in legal trouble. Ver was convicted for selling explosive devices on eBay, an event that would have profound implications for his future. The devices, marketed as pest control, caught the attention of federal authorities. He was sentenced to 10 months in a federal prison, a period that would solidify his anti-government stance. Prison was a crucible for Roger Ver, testing the limits of his ideology against the harsh realities of confinement. It was within these walls that his disdain for governmental oversight hardened, transforming into a lifelong mission to oppose such structures. Upon his release, Ver made a decision that would forever alter the trajectory of his life. He moved to Japan. The allure of Japan was multifaceted. Its culture, economic opportunities, and a sense of starting anew. Ver found in Japan a fertile ground for his entrepreneurial spirit, away from the constraints he felt in the United States. It was in 2011, from this base in Japan, that Roger Ver first encountered Bitcoin. Bitcoin was trading at just $1 when Ver's gaze fell upon it. Yet to him, it represented a monumental discovery. Here was a currency unbound by borders, ungoverned by any central authority, echoing his libertarian ideals. Ver saw Bitcoin not just as a currency, but as a revolutionary technology capable of reshaping the global financial landscape. His enthusiasm for Bitcoin was infectious, earning him the moniker Bitcoin Jesus. With evangelical zeal, he began promoting Bitcoin globally, investing in startups and fostering a community of believers. He funded Bitcoin-related projects, helped organize conferences, and even produced educational content to demystify this nascent technology. Roger Ver's influence grew as Bitcoin gained traction, but so too did the complexity of the ecosystem. His early investments paid off handsomely, solidifying his role as a significant player in the cryptocurrency world. However, the very traits that made him a visionary would also set the stage for future conflicts. As Bitcoin's popularity soared, so did the ideological rifts within its community. Ver found himself at odds with certain factions, particularly over the technical direction of Bitcoin. The debate centered around scalability issues, specifically the size of Bitcoin blocks, a fundamental aspect of how transactions are processed. Ver advocated for larger block sizes, arguing that Bitcoin should remain accessible and practical for everyday use. In his view, limiting block size restricted Bitcoin's potential as a widespread payment system. Opponents feared that increasing the block size could compromise the network's security and decentralization. This schism, rooted in technical and philosophical disagreements, marked a turning point in Ver's journey. It was not just a debate over code, but a clash of visions, what Bitcoin was and what it could become. Ver's convictions were unwavering, and he was willing to risk his reputation to uphold them. Despite the growing tensions, Ver remained a pivotal figure in the Bitcoin world, using his platform to advocate for his beliefs. He organized meetups, spoke at countless events, and continued to support initiatives that aligned with his vision of Bitcoin. His influence was undeniable, even as the community around him became increasingly polarized. By 2014, Roger Ver had renounced his American citizenship, a decision fueled by his ideological beliefs and personal experiences. He relocated to regions in Asia and the Caribbean, distancing himself physically and symbolically from American governance. This decision underscored his commitment to living a life aligned with his values, regardless of the personal cost. For all his successes, Ver's path was fraught with challenges, not least of which was his contentious relationship with regulatory authorities. His outspoken criticisms of government policies and his tax strategies kept him under scrutiny. In 2024, these tensions culminated in a federal indictment in the United States for tax fraud, marking a pivotal moment in his life. Arrested in Spain, Ver faced the reality of legal battles once more. Yet this was a battle on an entirely different scale. The charges threatened to overshadow his contributions and redefine his legacy in the public eye. It was a stark reminder of the thin line between visionary and outlaw, a line Roger Ver had walked for much of his life. As the dust settled on his arrest, the cryptocurrency community watched closely, divided in their support and opposition. Ver's journey from Silicon Valley entrepreneur to Bitcoin evangelist had been anything but conventional. Each choice, each conviction, and each conflict had brought him to this moment, a crossroads of ideology and consequence. The next chapter would reveal whether Roger Ver's unwavering beliefs could withstand the mounting pressures and whether his legacy would endure the storm ahead. Roger Ver first heard about Bitcoin in May 2011. He was browsing a libertarian forum, a place where free market enthusiasts gathered to discuss ideas and innovations. A user had posted a link to an article about this new digital currency, Bitcoin, and its potential to circumvent traditional banking systems. Intrigued, Ver delved deeper. In those days, Bitcoin was trading at a mere dollar. It was a fascinating concept, promising a decentralized form of money not controlled by any government or financial institution. For Ver, who had long harbored a deep distrust of centralized authority, This was nothing short of revolutionary. Satoshi Nakamoto, the pseudonymous creator of Bitcoin, had published the white paper on October 31st, 2008, presenting a new kind of peer-to-peer electronic cash system. The blockchain technology underpinning Bitcoin offered transparency, security, and above all, freedom from traditional financial constraints. These principles resonated deeply with Ver's libertarian values. By June 2011, Ver had invested in Bitcoin, purchasing thousands of coins. He recognized its potential not only as an investment, but as a transformative force capable of reshaping financial landscapes. At the time, Bitcoin was still largely unknown, discussed only in niche circles and a few tech-savvy forums. Ver's initial investment quickly became a fervent advocacy. He started promoting Bitcoin wherever he could, seeing in it a chance to promote financial independence and challenge the status quo. He reached out to businesses, encouraging them to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. His enthusiasm earned him a nickname, Bitcoin Jesus. In 2011, Ver took to YouTube, creating videos explaining Bitcoin and its benefits. His message was clear and simple. Bitcoin was the future of money. His conviction and clarity of explanation attracted many who were curious yet hesitant about this digital revolution. The passion he exhibited was not merely for financial gain, it was deeply ideological. Ver saw Bitcoin as a tool to advance human freedom, an opportunity to diminish the power governments held over individual lives. His advocacy was relentless, often clashing with traditional financial perspectives, yet he remained undeterred. Ver's zeal was not just in words, it was in action. He began investing in startups that were developing Bitcoin-related technologies that could bolster this burgeoning ecosystem. Companies like BitPay, Blockchain Info, and Kraken received funding from him, enabling them to grow and innovate. By 2013, Bitcoin's value had surged, reaching $266 in April before crashing down to $50. The volatility was immense, yet Ver remained an unwavering supporter. He continued to espouse Bitcoin's long-term potential, undeterred by short-term market fluctuations. For him, the focus was always on the broader implications for financial sovereignty. Ver's life took a significant turn in 2014. He renounced his American citizenship, citing frustrations with U.S. government policies and taxation. Choosing to live predominantly in Japan, Ver felt he could pursue his libertarian ideals more freely abroad. The move was drastic, but emblematic of his commitment to his beliefs. In Japan, Ver found a welcoming environment for his Bitcoin evangelism. The Japanese were increasingly receptive to Bitcoin as a form of currency, and Ver seized this opportunity to expand his influence. He participated in conferences, collaborated with developers, and continued to invest in projects that aligned with his vision. Bitcoin's journey was not without opposition. Regulatory bodies across the world began grappling with how to handle this new, uncontrollable form of currency. Concerns about money laundering, tax evasion, and the use of Bitcoin for illicit activities emerged. Governments were anxious about the implications of a currency that operated outside their control. Despite these challenges, Ver maintained his stance. He argued that the benefits of Bitcoin far outweighed the risks. For Ver, Bitcoin's capacity to empower individuals, especially in countries with unstable currencies and oppressive governments, was paramount. It was a tool for liberation, for financial autonomy. In December 2013, the People's Bank of China banned financial institutions from using Bitcoin, causing market panic. Yet, true to form, Ver saw it as an opportunity for resilience and growth. He emphasized the necessity of decentralization as both a challenge to such regulations and a means of survival for Bitcoin. This was a test of Bitcoin's true potential. By 2015, Bitcoin's acceptance grew as mainstream companies began to accept it. Overstock.com, a major online retailer, allowed customers to pay in Bitcoin, further validating Ver's tireless efforts. It was a moment of triumph, a testament to the relentless advocacy by Ver and others who believed in Bitcoin's promise. Ver's journey with Bitcoin was deeply personal. It was not just about financial gains. It was about challenging systems, questioning authority, and above all, championing freedom. He was not just an investor or a promoter. He was an ideologue, a man driven by a vision of a more autonomous world. As the decade progressed, the cryptocurrency landscape began to shift. New players entered the scene, new ideas emerged, and with them, new conflicts. These changes would soon pose significant ideological challenges, setting the stage for a pivotal schism in the Bitcoin community. Roger Ver stood at the crossroads of this transformation, poised to influence its direction. With fervor undiminished, he prepared to face the emerging challenges head-on, determined to safeguard his vision of what Bitcoin could and should be. But the path ahead was fraught with complexities, as ideological divisions threatened to fracture the community he had worked so tirelessly to build. The schism would test not only his beliefs, but the very foundations of the digital currency revolution. Roger Ver stood at a crossroads in 2012. His passion for Bitcoin was igniting like a wildfire, spreading rapidly beyond the confines of Silicon Valley. Not long after his introduction to the digital currency, he made decisions that would shape his reputation and future. On a warm afternoon in early June, he gathered with fellow enthusiasts at a small cafe in San Francisco. Here, under the dim glow of retro Edison bulbs, Ver shared his vision, a world where Bitcoin was not just an asset, but a movement. Among those listening was Charlie Shrem, a young entrepreneur with a keen interest in the burgeoning cryptocurrency. Shrem and Ver bonded over shared ideals, discussing the potential to disrupt traditional financial systems. In this cafe, they weren't just exchanging ideas, they were laying the groundwork for partnerships that would extend far beyond that moment. Ver's enthusiasm was infectious. He captivated audiences by explaining how Bitcoin could liberate individuals from the shackles of centralized banking. Many were skeptical, of course, but Ver had a way of cutting through doubts, linking this new technology to the broader ideals of freedom and autonomy. In the ensuing months, Bitcoin's value began to climb steadily, sparking interest across the globe. By late 2012, one Bitcoin was valued at approximately $12, a significant increase from the single dollar it was worth when Ver first encountered it. He saw this rise not as a financial gain, but as validation of a belief. People were ready for change. As Bitcoin's value grew, so did Ver's investment. He poured money into various startups, including BitInstant, the company Shrem co-founded, which aimed to make Bitcoin accessible to the average consumer. Ver's investments were not just financial, they were ideological endorsements, each dollar a vote for a new kind of economy. He became known as Bitcoin Jesus for his evangelical zeal, traveling the world to spread the gospel of cryptocurrency. In Tokyo, he met Mark Karpeles, CEO of the now infamous Mt. Gox exchange. Karpeles was a pivotal figure in Bitcoin's early days, managing what was then the largest Bitcoin exchange. Their meeting was fortuitous. Ver was in search of allies who shared his vision for Bitcoin's potential. Through these connections, Ver helped forge an international network of Bitcoin advocates. In his travels, he also made a crucial personal decision. Disillusioned by the American government's stance on cryptocurrency, Ver renounced his U.S. citizenship in 2014, opting for residency in Japan and later the Caribbean. This was not merely a logistical choice, it was a statement of his belief in a borderless world. By 2015, Bitcoin was no longer a fringe interest. It had caught the attention of major financial institutions and governments worldwide. The rapid rise of Bitcoin attracted scrutiny and regulation, testing Ver's unwavering faith in the currency's libertarian ideals. Debates within the Bitcoin community grew heated, especially over how to scale the network to accommodate more users. This division became apparent during the Scaling Bitcoin conference in December 2015, held at the Mandarin Oriental in Hong Kong. Ver was among the attendees, pushing for solutions that preserved Bitcoin's decentralized nature. He advocated for a larger block size to increase transaction capacity, a proposal that was met with resistance from those fearing it could centralize the network. The discussions were intense and often contentious. Ver found himself at odds with Bitcoin core developers, who favored a more cautious approach. The ideological rift was widening, and Ver began to feel increasingly alienated. As tensions escalated, Ver started to explore alternatives, believing that Bitcoin's original vision was being compromised. In the summer of 2016, the divide reached a tipping point. Bitcoin's block size debate culminated in a contentious hard fork, leading to the creation of Bitcoin Cash. Ver saw this as a chance to return to what Bitcoin was meant to be, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. He became one of the most vocal proponents of Bitcoin Cash, declaring it the true continuation of Satoshi Nakamoto's vision. By supporting Bitcoin Cash, Ver was not just backing a technical choice. He was investing in a renewed ideological battle. The split was more than just a technical disagreement. It was a philosophical schism that fractured friendships and alliances. Yet Ver remained undeterred, channeling his resources and influence to promote Bitcoin Cash globally. In 2017, as Bitcoin's price soared past $19,000, the world was watching. Ver continued to defend his choice, participating in numerous debates and interviews, often facing harsh criticism. For many, he was either a visionary or a turncoat. There was little room for neutrality. His relationships within the cryptocurrency community became increasingly strained. Despite the conflict, Ver pressed on. He funded educational initiatives, development projects, and even created video content to spread awareness about Bitcoin Cash. His conviction remained unshaken, even as Bitcoin Cash faced technical challenges and market volatility. Ver's journey was marked by a profound resilience, a refusal to compromise on his principles. By the end of 2018, Bitcoin Cash had established itself as a significant player in the cryptocurrency market, though far from Ver's initial hopes. Still, his efforts had not gone unnoticed. Supporters hailed him as a hero, while critics continued to question his motives and methods. As the decade turned, the world of cryptocurrency was more complex and regulated than ever before. Ver's early dreams of a decentralized utopia faced new challenges in a global financial landscape that continued to evolve. Yet, for Ver, the fundamental fight for financial freedom and decentralized control remained unchanged. Roger Ver's journey as Bitcoin Jesus was far from over. His story was now entwined with Bitcoin Cash, a testament to his willingness to forge new paths in the pursuit of his ideals. As we turn our gaze toward the horizon, a question lingers. Would Ver's relentless pursuit of his vision lead to redemption, or would it spell further controversy? The ideological tension within the Bitcoin community was palpable. It simmered beneath the surface, a quiet discord that would soon fracture into a full-blown schism. Roger Ver found himself at the epicenter of this growing divide. It was the summer of 2015 when the debates over Bitcoin's scalability began to intensify. At the heart of the controversy was the block size limit, a seemingly technical detail that concealed deep ideological differences. Some argued for the status quo, preserving Bitcoin's decentralization by maintaining a 1 megabyte block size. Others, including Roger Ver, saw this as a bottleneck to Bitcoin's potential as a global currency. They advocated for a larger block size, envisioning faster transactions and lower fees. For Ver, this was not just a technical issue, it was a matter of principle. He believed Bitcoin should remain true to its original vision as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. The rigidity of the 1 megabyte limit seemed to him a betrayal of Bitcoin's promise to the world. He often quoted Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin's mysterious creator, who had once suggested the possibility of larger blocks. August 1st, 2017, marked a pivotal moment. The community's inability to reach a consensus led to a hard fork, creating Bitcoin Cash. It was a new cryptocurrency with an 8 MB block size, championed by Ver and others who shared his vision. This split, however, was more than just a technological divergence. It was a rift that exposed the complex interplay of personal beliefs, technological ideals, and business interests. Roger Ver's decision to support Bitcoin Cash was met with mixed reactions. For those who had followed him since the early days, it felt like a betrayal. Yet for Ver, it was a necessary step to preserve Bitcoin's foundational ideals. He spoke passionately about the need for Bitcoin Cash in interviews and at conferences, painting it as the true heir to Satoshi's vision. Ver's advocacy for Bitcoin Cash went beyond mere words. He put his money where his mouth was, investing millions in its development and promotion. This financial backing gave Bitcoin Cash a significant boost, helping to solidify its place in the cryptocurrency landscape. But with support came scrutiny. Critics accused Ver of sowing division within the community for personal gain. They claimed he was trading on his reputation as Bitcoin Jesus to mislead newcomers about the true nature of the digital currency. Tensions ran high on social media, with heated debates often descending into personal attacks. Despite the controversy, Ver remained steadfast in his convictions. He continued to travel the globe, speaking at conferences and evangelizing Bitcoin Cash. In his view, Bitcoin Cash was not a departure but a course correction, a return to the principles of decentralization and financial sovereignty that had drawn him to Bitcoin in the first place. The split within the Bitcoin community was emblematic of a broader tension between innovation and tradition. It was a familiar story in the tech world, reminiscent of the early days of the internet. Yet, for those like Ver, who had invested not only financially but emotionally, the stakes felt much higher. As the years passed, the schism between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash deepened. While Bitcoin continued to gain mainstream acceptance, Bitcoin Cash struggled to achieve the same level of recognition. This was partially due to the entrenched narratives that Ver himself had helped to construct. In the eyes of many, Bitcoin had become the digital gold, a store of value rather than a medium for daily transactions. Bitcoin Cash, in contrast, was seen as the practical alternative, a currency meant for everyday use. This divergence in purpose highlighted the philosophical differences that had led to the split. Ver's role in the cryptocurrency space became increasingly controversial. Some saw him as a visionary, committed to preserving the decentralized nature of digital currencies. Others viewed him as a polarizing figure, a disruptive force whose actions threatened the stability of the ecosystem. The deep emotional investment that Ver had in Bitcoin's success made these criticisms particularly painful. Yet, he seemed to thrive in the midst of controversy. His public persona was as much defined by his willingness to challenge the status quo as by his early contributions to Bitcoin's success. The years following the schism were marked by rapid developments in the cryptocurrency world. New technologies emerged, governments began to take notice, and regulatory frameworks slowly took shape. Within this dynamic environment, Ver continued to push for the adoption of Bitcoin Cash. His libertarian beliefs remained a driving force behind his advocacy. The idea that individuals should have control over their own money was central to both his personal philosophy and his professional endeavors. As decentralized finance grew, Ver saw it as a validation of the principles he had long championed. Yet, despite his successes, the shadow of Roger Ver's past loomed large. His 2002 federal conviction and his renunciation of U.S. citizenship were constant reminders of the challenges he had faced. These experiences informed his worldview, shaping his distrust of centralized authorities and his commitment to financial independence. As the cryptocurrency landscape continued to evolve, Ver found himself confronting new challenges. The debates that had once centered on block size now encompassed a broader array of issues, from privacy to scalability to environmental impact. Through it all, Ver remained a steadfast advocate for Bitcoin Cash. To him, it represented more than just a financial asset. It was a tool for empowerment, a means to create a more equitable and free world. But as the lines between personal belief and public persona blurred, the pressures of being a figurehead took their toll. In the years leading up to 2024, the cryptocurrency space faced increasing regulatory scrutiny. Governments around the world began to crack down on what they saw as a threat to traditional financial systems. For Ver, these developments were a call to action, a reminder of the challenges he had faced and the battles he was still willing to fight. As rumors of legal troubles began to circulate, Ver's role in the cryptocurrency narrative seemed to shift once more. The man once hailed as Bitcoin Jesus found himself at a crossroads, his future uncertain. His journey had been marked by innovation and controversy, by unwavering belief and relentless advocacy. But as the story continued to unfold, one question loomed large. Would Roger Ver's legacy be defined by his contributions to the cryptocurrency world or by the controversies that surrounded him? In the quiet hours of July 12, 2024, everything changed for Roger Ver. A post on social media began circulating, indicating that Ver, the man once hailed as Bitcoin Jesus, had been arrested in the tranquil coastal city of Alicante, Spain. The Spanish National Police confirmed the news by midday, as headlines quickly spread across global news outlets, painting a somber picture of a man now entangled in a legal quagmire. Roger Ver was facing a federal indictment in the United States for allegations of tax fraud. The U.S. Department of Justice accused him of elaborate schemes to evade substantial amounts of taxes over several years. The charges came as a shock to many in the cryptocurrency community, who saw Ver as a libertarian symbol, an advocate for financial freedom. Yet to others, it seemed a foreseeable culmination of his long-standing conflict with governmental control. Ver's journey from San Jose, California, to the Iberian Peninsula was anything but ordinary. Born on January 27, 1979, he was always a man drawn to the fringes of society's norms. His early life in Santa Clara, nestled in the heart of Silicon Valley, shaped his entrepreneurial spirit and deep-seated libertarian beliefs. But it was his federal conviction in 2002 for selling explosive devices on eBay that solidified his anti-establishment stance. After serving 10 months in prison, Ver moved to Japan, seeking a fresh start. It was here, in 2011, that he discovered Bitcoin, a new digital currency promising decentralization and freedom from centralized financial systems. Ver's embrace of Bitcoin was fervent. He saw it not just as a technological marvel, but as a tool to dismantle the very systems that had once shackled him. He poured his energy and resources into promoting Bitcoin, earning the moniker Bitcoin Jesus for his evangelical zeal. Yet, as the cryptocurrency community grew, ideological rifts began to emerge. Disagreements about Bitcoin's future led Ver to support a controversial fork, Bitcoin Cash, which promised faster transaction speeds and lower fees. This decision placed him at odds with many early Bitcoin supporters and marked the beginning of a schism that would define his later years. Despite the controversies, Ver continued to advocate for a world where individuals controlled their financial destinies. He relocated to various countries, including Japan and later to the Caribbean, eventually renouncing his American citizenship, a move seen by some as a protest against a system he had long distrusted. By 2024, Ver's once celebrated reputation had become mired in skepticism and criticism. The indictment and subsequent arrest seemed to crystallize these tensions. The charges were specific. Ver was accused of failing to report cryptocurrency earnings and using a network of offshore accounts to conceal income. The indictment detailed transactions dating back several years, involving substantial sums that allegedly went undeclared to the Internal Revenue Service. Legal experts speculated that the case against Ver had been meticulously built over time, with investigators tracing digital footprints left by cryptocurrency transactions. For Ver, the arrest was a dramatic twist in a life marked by defiance of convention. In public statements, he vehemently denied the charges, framing them as yet another chapter in his long-standing battle against overreach and control by governmental forces. "This is not just about me," he declared in an interview conducted shortly after his arrest. "It's about the principle that individuals should have sovereignty over their financial lives." Roger Ver's legal troubles unfolded against a backdrop of broader questions about cryptocurrency regulation and the balance between innovation and oversight. In many ways, his case symbolized the complex intersection of technology, finance, and law, an arena where ideals of freedom and privacy often collided with the realities of governance and legal obligations. As Ver awaited potential extradition to the United States, his supporters rallied online, arguing that his prosecution was more about making an example of a prominent figure than about justice itself. Yet, the allegations were serious. Tax evasion charges carry significant penalties, involving both hefty fines and substantial prison time. For Ver, the stakes were profound, not only in terms of personal freedom, but also for the legacy he would leave within the cryptocurrency world. Would he be remembered as a pioneer for financial independence, or as a cautionary tale of hubris and legal defiance? In Alicante, as summer tourists strolled the sun-drenched streets, Ver faced a future as uncertain as the markets he had once championed. Conversations about his fate rippled through cafes and online forums alike, each thread adding to the narrative of a man who had reached dizzying heights only to fall under the weight of his own convictions. As the days passed, Ver's circumstances became a microcosm of the broader tensions between innovation and regulation. His story reflected the growing pains of a technology still finding its place in a world governed by laws designed long before its inception. Roger Ver had always been a man of vision and controversy, both admired and admonished. Now, at a critical juncture, it was unclear which version of his legacy would prevail. The path ahead was fraught with legal battles and public opinion, each decision potentially altering the course of his life and the ideals he held dear. As we look towards the next chapter, the question remains, how will Roger Ver navigate the storm? In the closing days of 2024, the cryptocurrency community stirred with a mix of disbelief and inevitability. Roger Ver, once a revered figure known as Bitcoin Jesus, had been arrested in a small Spanish town on the Costa del Sol. It was the culmination of years of mounting legal pressures and controversies that had shadowed his once respected name. For many, the news was shocking. Yet others saw it as the logical end to a tumultuous journey marked by ideological fervor and personal ambition. Roger's arrest in Spain came on the heels of a federal indictment in the United States. The charges centered around allegations of tax fraud, a situation that had been developing quietly behind the scenes as Ver continued to engage in his global advocacy for Bitcoin Cash. The indictment detailed a complex web of financial transactions that prosecutors argued Ver had orchestrated to evade taxes. This legal turn of events was a significant marker in the evolving relationship between governments and the decentralized world of cryptocurrency. To understand the gravity of these charges, it's essential to revisit the undercurrents of Ver's life choices. Born on January 27, 1979, in the heart of Silicon Valley, San Jose, California, Roger was no stranger to technology and innovation. His journey from the bustling corridors of De Anza College to the entrepreneurial landscapes of Silicon Valley was driven by a unique blend of ambition and conviction. Yet, his 2002 conviction for selling explosive devices on eBay marked the beginning of a long-standing battle with authority. This event not only solidified his anti-government stance, but also set the stage for his later entanglements with the law. After serving a 10-month prison sentence, Roger Ver relocated to Japan. It was there, amid the bustling innovation of Tokyo, that he first encountered Bitcoin in 2011. At that time, the cryptocurrency was trading at a mere $1. Ver saw an opportunity not just for financial gain, but as a revolutionary tool against what he viewed as oppressive governmental systems. His passion for Bitcoin soon earned him the moniker Bitcoin Jesus. His advocacy was as fervent as it was influential, funding numerous Bitcoin startups and evangelizing its potential across continents. However, as the cryptocurrency ecosystem expanded, so did the ideological divides within it. Roger found himself at the center of a schism, a philosophical clash over the future of Bitcoin. The debate over block size and the scalability of Bitcoin led to the birth of Bitcoin Cash in 2017, a fork that Ver ardently supported. For him, Bitcoin Cash represented a return to Bitcoin's original mission as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. His support for the fork was not without controversy. Many saw his actions as divisive, accusing him of prioritizing personal vision over communal consensus. As Ver's advocacy shifted towards Bitcoin Cash, so too did his geographical presence. He renounced his American citizenship, a move that underscored his disdain for what he perceived as intrusive governmental policies. His relocation to Asia and the Caribbean reflected a desire for autonomy, a running theme throughout his life. Yet, this decision also distanced him from the regulatory frameworks of the United States, a factor that played into the narrative of his eventual legal challenges. In the lead-up to his arrest, Ver's reputation within the cryptocurrency community had become increasingly polarized. To some, he remained a visionary, steadfast in his commitment to financial sovereignty. To others, he had evolved into a figure of contention, his actions seen as reckless and self-serving. The controversies surrounding his statements and actions often overshadowed the nuanced discussions about Bitcoin Cash and its role in the broader cryptocurrency landscape. On a personal level, the legal battles and public scrutiny took their toll on Roger Ver. Friends noted a shift in his demeanor, a weariness that crept into his once vibrant advocacy. His arrest in Spain marked not simply a legal turning point, but an emotional reckoning. It was a moment where the weight of past decisions converged with a present reality that was, in many ways, unavoidable. The impact of Ver's arrest rippled through the cryptocurrency world, prompting discussions about accountability, regulation, and the future of decentralized finance. As the news spread, so did questions about what this meant for other prominent figures in the space. Would Ver's indictment set a precedent for future legal actions against cryptocurrency advocates? Or would it serve as a cautionary tale, highlighting the need for clearer regulatory pathways? While Ver faced the immediate challenges of the legal system, his story illuminated broader themes about the intersection of technology, ideology, and law. It was a reminder of the delicate balance between innovation and regulation, a balance that continues to shape the evolution of cryptocurrencies today. As 2024 drew to a close, the world watched with bated breath, waiting to see how Roger Ver's legal battles would unfold. For those who had followed his journey from Silicon Valley to the global stage, it was a poignant chapter in the story of a man whose life had been as controversial as it was impactful. In the quiet moments following his arrest, as the world speculated and debated, Roger Ver faced an uncertain future. His journey, marked by relentless advocacy and profound controversy, had reached a critical juncture. Yet, in the world of cryptocurrency, where the only constant is change, the story was far from over. As the legal proceedings loomed ahead, the community braced for what promised to be a landmark moment in the ongoing dialogue between innovation and the law. In the next chapter, we will delve into the intricacies of the legal proceedings facing Roger Ver. We will explore the evidence presented by prosecutors, the defense mounted by his legal team, and the broader implications for the cryptocurrency community. The outcome of these proceedings may well redefine the relationship between digital currencies and governmental oversight. The stage is set for a confrontation that will not only determine Ver's fate, but also influence the future trajectory of digital finance. The stage is set for a confrontation that will not only determine Ver's fate, but also influence the future trajectory of digital finance. As 2024 unfurled its complexities, the cryptocurrency community watched with bated breath. The arrest of Roger Ver in Spain on July 15th sent shockwaves through the world of digital currencies, shaking the foundations of a movement that had thrived on the ideals of decentralization and personal liberty. Ver's arrest was not a sudden development, but the culmination of an investigation that had been quietly building in the shadows for years. Federal agents, guided by a mandate to scrutinize the burgeoning world of digital finance, had focused their attention on Ver as early as 2020. The narrative unfolded against the backdrop of increasing governmental scrutiny on cryptocurrencies and their potential misuse for tax evasion and fraud. Ver, known for his staunch libertarian views and public renunciation of American citizenship, had attracted both admiration and suspicion. In the heart of Washington, D.C., the U.S. Department of Justice had formed a task force specifically aimed at investigating high-profile individuals in the cryptocurrency realm. This team, led by Special Agent Laura Martinez, had become a focal point for efforts to combat financial crimes in the digital age. Martinez, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for unyielding tenacity, had previously worked on cases involving international money laundering. Her expertise proved invaluable as the team sifted through countless digital breadcrumbs left in the wake of Ver's transactions. It was during late 2022 that investigators struck gold. A whistleblower, an insider from a major cryptocurrency exchange, approached the authorities with information that painted a troubling picture of Ver's financial dealings. This individual, seeking anonymity and protection, provided detailed records of transactions allegedly designed to obscure the origins and destinations of funds. These documents suggested elaborate schemes aimed at avoiding taxation, leveraging the opacity that cryptocurrencies sometimes afford. Martinez and her team knew they had stumbled upon something significant. The whistleblower's claims opened up new avenues of inquiry, leading them to comb through terabytes of blockchain data. The investigation unfolded like a digital treasure hunt, each lead a piece of the puzzle that pointed towards a larger, more intricate network. To bolster their case, the team collaborated with international agencies, recognizing that Ver's operations spanned continents and required a concerted global effort. As the investigation deepened, the task force faced the daunting challenge of untangling Ver's complex web of business interests. His ventures, scattered across jurisdictions from Tokyo to St. Kitts and Nevis, were not only diverse, but often intertwined with legitimate enterprises. This complexity was emblematic of the modern age of global finance, where borders blurred and digital transactions transcended traditional oversight. Ver had always been a polarizing figure in the cryptocurrency community. To some, he was a visionary who had championed the cause of financial independence and privacy. To others, he represented the unbridled ambition that could lead to dangerous excess. His vocal support for Bitcoin Cash, following the infamous fork from Bitcoin, had already placed him at the heart of intense ideological debates. Now his arrest risked fracturing a community already fraught with division. In a small conference room within the Department of Justice, Martinez presented the findings to her superiors. The evidence laid bare a pattern of conduct that suggested deliberate tax evasion and fraudulent activity. Key transactions traced back to 2018 showed substantial sums of money being funneled through a series of shell companies, making them virtually invisible to tax authorities. Ver's financial empire, it seemed, was built on shifting sands, a facade maintained through meticulous deceit. With the indictment sealed, the operation to apprehend Ver was set in motion. His arrest in Spain, a country known for its cooperation with international law enforcement, was executed with precision. The news broke swiftly, capturing headlines and reigniting debates about the ethical implications of cryptocurrency as a financial instrument. For Ver, the arrest marked the beginning of a legal battle that would test not only his personal resolve, but also the resilience of the ideals he had so fervently championed. As days turned into weeks, Ver's supporters rallied behind him, portraying the charges as politically motivated, an attack on individual freedoms veiled as legal enforcement. Social media platforms buzzed with activity, a testament to Ver's enduring influence in the digital space. However, the gravity of the allegations could not be easily dismissed. The charges, if proven, could lead to a sentence that would effectively end Ver's career, casting a long shadow over his legacy. While Ver awaited extradition to the United States, his legal team, led by renowned defense attorney Samuel Reed, prepared for what promised to be a complex and high-stakes trial. Reed, known for his deft handling of cases involving financial crimes, faced the formidable task of dismantling the government's argument. The defense strategy hinged on challenging the interpretation of cryptocurrency-related regulations, positing that the existing legal framework was ill-equipped to address the nuances of digital currencies. Back in the United States, the Department of Justice was resolute. For them, the case against Ver was about more than one man's alleged misconduct. It was a statement on the necessity of regulation in an increasingly digital world. The trial, they believed, would serve as a precedent, influencing how cryptocurrencies were perceived and governed in future. As the legal proceedings loomed, the weight of this responsibility was keenly felt by all parties involved. In the midst of legal maneuverings, Ver's personal story resonated deeply with those who had followed his journey from Silicon Valley entrepreneur to Bitcoin evangelist. His life had been a tapestry woven with ambition, controversy, and an unyielding belief in a future free from governmental overreach. Yet, as he faced the possibility of a future defined by legal battles and potential incarceration, questions arose about the cost of his convictions. Would the ideals Ver so passionately advocated survive the scrutiny of a courtroom? And what of the community he had helped to build? Would it rally or fracture under the weight of his legal troubles? These questions lingered, demanding answers that only time could provide. As the world watched the unfolding drama, there was an undeniable sense that the coming months would not only shape Ver's destiny, but also chart the course for the entire cryptocurrency community. The scene was set, the players took their positions, and the stakes could not be higher. With the trial on the horizon, the future hung in a delicate balance, poised between resolution and further discord. And so, the next chapter in Roger Ver's tumultuous saga awaited. Roger Ver sat in a dimly lit cell, the walls echoing with the hushed whispers of his past. The year was 2024, a full 2 decades since his first brush with the law had shaped his worldview. Now, he faced yet another potential turning point. Arrested in Spain, he awaited extradition to the United States on charges of tax fraud. To fully understand the legacy of Roger Ver, one must first grasp the magnitude of his influence in the cryptocurrency world. Born on January 27, 1979, in San Jose, California, Ver was a native of Silicon Valley. This region, steeped in technological advancement and innovation, was fertile ground for someone with Ver's entrepreneurial spirit. Ver's early ventures were marked by quick successes and equally swift downfalls. His company, MemoryDealers.com, garnered notable attention by selling computer memory chips and hardware components. Yet it was his conviction in 2002 for selling explosive devices on eBay that proved to be a defining moment. The 10-month prison sentence he served at Taft Correctional Institution only cemented his libertarian ideologies. The real pivot came in 2011. That year, Ver discovered Bitcoin, then trading at a mere dollar. For Ver, Bitcoin wasn't just digital currency. It was a tool for financial sovereignty, a means to break free from government-imposed financial chains. His passion for this new technology earned him the moniker Bitcoin Jesus. His evangelism knew no bounds. Through his financial backing, Ver supported a myriad of Bitcoin-related projects and companies. He invested a significant amount of his wealth, estimated to be in the millions, into startups such as Blockchain.info and BitInstant. These investments were crucial in bolstering the early cryptocurrency infrastructure. Ver's voice was both a beacon and a rallying cry for those who shared his vision. Yet, as with many movements, internal conflicts arose. By 2015, a schism within the Bitcoin community had begun to take shape. The debate centered around the size of Bitcoin's blocks. Some, including Ver, argued for larger blocks to increase transaction speed and capacity. Others believed smaller blocks were necessary for maintaining decentralization and security. This ideological divide would lead Ver to support Bitcoin Cash, a fork of Bitcoin, in 2017. While Bitcoin Cash gained traction, it also attracted significant controversy. Critics accused Ver of using his influence to mislead new users about the differences between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Ver's detractors argued that he was more focused on personal gain than the ethos of a decentralized currency. These controversies placed Ver at the center of heated debates and further eroded his once unassailable reputation. Despite these challenges, Ver remained steadfast in his convictions. He renounced his American citizenship and relocated to Asia and the Caribbean, partially to distance himself from what he saw as an overreaching government. This move, however, would later be scrutinized under the lens of tax evasion. It was a decision rooted in his libertarian beliefs, yet it carried significant legal ramifications. In January 2024, when Ver was arrested in Spain, the charges against him painted a picture of financial indiscretion. The indictment alleged that Ver had engaged in complex schemes to evade taxes on his cryptocurrency earnings. The case attracted considerable media attention, not just for its high-profile defendant, but for the broader implications it had on the regulation of cryptocurrencies. As Ver awaited extradition, he reflected on the path that had led him to this moment. The ideals that had driven him were now under siege. Many within the cryptocurrency community viewed him as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the fine line between innovation and hubris. Yet, Ver's legacy is not easily defined. To some, he remains a hero, a man who dared to challenge the status quo and envision a world freer from governmental control. To others, his story is a warning of what happens when ideology blinds one to practical realities. The global landscape of cryptocurrency had evolved dramatically since Ver first embraced Bitcoin. Regulatory frameworks were being established, with governments worldwide striving to harness the technology's potential while mitigating its risks. In the United States, the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Internal Revenue Service had intensified their scrutiny, leaving no stone unturned. Amidst this backdrop, Ver's legal troubles took on added significance. His trial would not only determine his future, but might also influence how cryptocurrency is perceived and regulated. The question of balancing innovation with oversight was more pressing than ever. Ver's journey had profound implications for those who came after him. It challenged aspiring entrepreneurs and innovators to consider the ethical dimensions of their work. It also underscored the importance of understanding the regulatory environments in which they operated. For Roger Ver, the road ahead was uncertain. As he faced the prospect of extradition and a protracted legal battle, the cryptocurrency world held its breath. Many wondered if Ver's case would become a landmark in the annals of cryptocurrency history. Would his legacy be one of innovation marred by controversy or a cautionary tale of hubris? As the legal proceedings loomed, Ver's thoughts turned to the future. He knew that regardless of the outcome, the movement he helped ignite would continue to evolve. New voices would rise, fresh ideas would emerge, and the cycle of innovation would persist. The story of Roger Ver was far from over. The next chapter awaited, where the final pieces of his complex journey would fall into place. For now, the world watched, waited, and wondered what would become of Bitcoin Jesus. As we reach the end of Roger Ver's story, we find ourselves contemplating the intricate tapestry of human ambition, belief, and fallibility. Ver's journey through the cryptocurrency realm is more than a simple tale of rise and fall. It's a narrative that asks us to consider the nature of trust, the allure of money, and the relentless march of technology. Roger Ver's early conviction in Bitcoin wasn't just an entrepreneurial gamble. It was an act of defiance against a system he believed was flawed. As Bitcoin's evangelist, he saw not only the potential for wealth, but also a vision of liberation from traditional financial restraints. Yet in a world so deeply intertwined with ideals and realities, the lines between visionary leadership and stubborn self-interest can blur. In examining Ver's story, we witness the profound impact of technology on human trust. Bitcoin, an idea birthed from the cryptographic mind of Satoshi Nakamoto, represents both the promise and peril of decentralized finance. As Ver championed and later diverged from the original vision, we are reminded that human interpretations of technology can shift and splinter, just as communities do. Roger Ver's path reads like a modern parable, reflecting both the power and peril inherent in innovation. His ascent and subsequent controversies echo the age-old struggle between ideals and the imperfections of human character. Yet it also serves as a reminder that every technological revolution is as much about the people who drive it as the technology itself. As the chapters of Ver's life unfold, we find an enduring truth. The human spirit, with all its flaws and brilliance, remains the ultimate catalyst for change. Whether it is through the prism of money, ideology, or technology, the stories we craft whisper of our undying quest for meaning. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, let the echoes of this narrative remind you of the delicate dance between belief and reality. May the quiet rhythm of innovation lull your thoughts to rest, and in the silence of the night, find solace in the unresolved mysteries of human nature. Rest now, dear listener. This has been Satoshi's Lullaby.